Hi, everybody. We're sitting here with Scott Lopano in Presentation Hell. We're going to take a few minutes and discuss how he receives presentations. Scott is a venture capitalist who gives money to seed and Series A companies looking for really good leaders, companies who put it together and make it work. He views lots of presentations, and if you win with him, you might be funded. So, Scott, thank you for being here, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So as you mentioned, I'm with Tech Square Ventures. We're an early stage venture firm based out of Atlanta. My background, I guess, is in finance, so was putting together a lot of the presentations originally. Now, I guess, on the other side, viewing most of those presentations, but have been with Tech Square Ventures since 2017. So, and we have, as a firm, invested at this point in 70 or so companies. So,
70 companies have won their presentation with you.
Yeah, well, many have won other than the 70, but it doesn't all work out. But yes, so and look at a lot of pitches, hear and listen to a lot of pitches. So yeah, I've seen a lot of presentations and made a lot of presentations.
Hearing presentations from young up and coming executives, dreamers, entrepreneurs, what are 2 or 3 of the key components that you look for, that you look at and you're like, okay, we've got that, we've got this understanding, we've got that, now I can take a deeper dive?
Yeah, I think aside from our investment criteria, I think from the presentation standpoint, what I always look for is someone that just has a crisp storytelling. So an ability to walk from point A to point B to where you are now and where you're headed. And that's actually harder than it seems, especially when you might be asked to do a 1-minute pitch or a 3-minute or a 5-minute. And so you have to expand that story and contract it. And I think in general, being able to be on top of questions and follow-up, it's sort of the post-presentation where many times you might nail that first 3 minutes, but how do you respond to the off-the-cuff questions? And it's hard to do both. Have the managed, prepared presentation be tight, but also be responsive to the questions.
So it's almost like a yin and yang. You got to be free form, but buttoned up and tight is what you're looking for. You're looking for the whole package.
That's right. And I'd say the last piece is that you sort of leave people excited about where you're headed, which obviously I think when you've got a vision that you're excited about, it's contagious, but it's not easy to do either. When you're, maybe you're in an office suite and you're working off an old school PowerPoint. How do you
break that? Get
people as excited as you are about your product?
Yeah. I'll give some insight into that because you brought up something that I believe is critical, and that's storytelling. Storytelling's ultra important. People don't realize that how important it is to bring someone in, get their attention, make them emotionally commit to you, whatever it might be. Bring them follow up with data so that they analytically reinforce where you're going on what's going on, setting that up. That type of structure makes a big difference. From my point of view in doing these, I find that we go for an emotional move and then follow up with logic. The emotional is usually like a meme. If you could do a meme for your company, and it's just a picture and a meme is contrasting. It usually causes discussion. It makes people, on this side or this side.
Right.
And if you've done it that captures your business, once you've had that small discussion, now we can talk about the nuts and bolts of why that leaky pipe is relevant for our plumbing venture.
That's right. Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And so what you nailed there is that not everybody looks at the meme and agrees. Mm-hmm. So same, frankly, when it's presentations, you don't have to get them necessarily to agree. Sometimes the vehemently disagree is actually a good response because that incites questions. And so I think for most entrepreneurs, the goal is to get that follow-up meeting. And sometimes that follow-up meeting is because I vehemently agree. Sometimes it's because I don't get it and I don't agree, but I want to learn more. So it's really just a matter of inciting that I want to learn more response.
Yeah. What I want to point out here is he's responding to things that moved him to an extreme. Either happy, sad, I didn't like it, I liked it. But the ones that were boring in the middle, we're not talking about.
Those are tough.
That's a little insight of what's going on. Who do you remember from sitting in front of 20 presentations? What do you remember?
Yep. And what I don't envy about those giving the presentation is you've got to think about every person in that room and how to incite a reaction from each different person. And they may be coming at it from totally different angles and different perspectives.
Tell me about a horrible presentation that has been given to you. Someone who came through the door all piss and vinegar, ready to go, and what happened? You don't have to name it, but give a story so our listeners can, see what to avoid.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. They're the ones that have been the hardest, not necessarily the worst, but the hardest are when they've just got a plan in their head on their presentation, and it's just not going to be deterred. And many times it might even be, hey, listen, we've got 30 minutes booked to really dig into your company, and you've got a hour-long presentation prepared, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we're just from point A to point B, just talking straight through, and there's not a chance to interrupt, ask questions, dialogue a bit, and it goes back to inciting a response.
Mm-hmm.
You have no idea how the person at the other end is responding because it's been you pitching the whole time. So sometimes the hardest ones have just been where it's a one-track lane and you're just along for the ride, and there's really no way to create some dialogue, and that's the easiest way to get excited or to get to elicit that emotional response.
Yeah, I agree with that. One of the big changes in presentations that we work with all the time over at Shuffler, my company, is that linear presentations force the conversation. You just explained to me one of the things you hated was you got 30 minutes, we're going through these slides, don't let me stop, don't let me bubble up, what's going on? But what if the presentation could follow the conversation? What if the slides reinforced what we're talking about? What if you had that information there for you? That's a basic tenet of presentation management. It's part of Shuffler, but it shows how you can get an audience engaged and when you get them. It's really important that way. It's here, let's do a human analogy for that. Let's just say you told me you're going to Disney World next week. You're going to bring the kids there. It's going to be wonderful. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to go, gosh, I've been there 8 times. And, your son's 8 years old. I don't know if he is. I'm just saying. My son was 8 years old. And when he was there, I'm going to pull out my phone and pull up a picture of me at Disney World.
Yep.
If you go on Splash Mountain, you're going to get wet, so avoid it.
Yeah.
I just pulled up a slide to follow the conversation.
That's right.
I looked at my images in there. They're broken up by favorites, timing, location. Those are chapters of my life.
Yeah.
We had a discussion. We had a commonality. I brought up an image to reinforce, to follow the conversation. We're doing it every time. We're doing it on Zoom, on all these calls. Someone says something, you go, hey, I got a video, and you go get it, and you start playing it. That's the presentation following the conversation. In these type of pitches, it makes it very hard when you got 3 minutes to do it. But there's a magic to that because it creates dialogue, it creates diction between you, and that's quite frankly, if you want to sell something, you better be engaging with that person.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's 2 things there that always stand out for me is one, you're prepared for those questions. So if you've got that picture at hand, or most commonly what I see is you've just got a big old slide deck and slide 34 is my customer attraction or whatever it is. And so as we're talking through that, you just hop to slide 34.
Exactly.
That level of anticipation, we assume, is not just something you bring to an investor meeting, but you bring to a customer meeting. And when you're going to hire your next big employee. And then also that you've got that you said you sort of tell a story and you back it up with data. So it needs to follow that order. And I think when it's led with the data, you lose the story. And so that's some of the challenge with those linear presentations that don't stop, because it's all about just shoving the data, one way.
Without a question.
Yeah.
Let's take an example like what you just said about grabbing them up front and then following up with logic. Great stories. Almost every sitcom, the very beginning of every great movie, story, everything is a huge change of life for the leader. Whether it was Cheers with Shelley Long, she was about to get married and got dumped. Mm-hmm. And then she went from she thought she was going to be a wonderful wife and this wonderful thing, and now she's a barmaid, right? Yep. And that's the whole show is built on that.
Yep.
Same thing with Friends. Who was it? One of Jennifer Aniston. She was the very first Friends. She got dumped. She walked away from her wedding, and that's when she was introduced to everyone, and that's the way the show started. But on that same note, when you're talking about presentations, how do you come in with a moment that grabs them and says, hey, I feel for you.
Right.
Oh, my God, how is Private – oh, now I'm showing my age. How is Private Benjamin going to go into the Army and survive, if you know the movie?
Yeah.
And that captures people. When you think of those changes, it comes in. Now, let's translate that into business a little bit. You can name anything. Let's name pick an industry, anything. How about –
we'll pick HR.
HR. So HR, you can hear someone coming in and going, I just got hired. What do I need to know?
Right.
And suddenly you're like, oh, my God, I have to get papers. I have to get follow-up. They have to be trained. They have to go through this setup. We have to go through your onboarding. We have to do payroll. We have to do all this type of stuff. I just listed a whole bunch of headaches.
Mm-hmm.
And anyone in that industry knows those headaches, anyone who does it. So if you can take that moment, make a small meme of it or make a picture of it of the guy going, where do I go? Where do I go? I have to be there at 9, but it starts at 7. And then follow it up with the facts of making it easier. Suddenly, I have connected with you with the problem, because that's what's burning it. Because if you have a business idea, it's because you're trying to fix a problem. Once you've shown that problem, then we can have a discussion about what's going on, because we're on the same page.
Yeah, and back to my point, when you've got these presentations and you've got to think about how to appeal to 10 different people with different perspectives who may or may not know the problem, I do find the best presentations open with that problem illustrated as a story. Meet Jonathan, right? And he's in this situation, just got hired, and just think about all the things he has to go through and all the stress of being a new employee. And just walking somebody through that emotional response definitely helps. I do think, in general, the tendency is to spend too much time on the problem.
Yep.
Because I think you want to illustrate that and then move on to
you
the
have to do that
and really hammer that home.
Actually, that's a critical thing for entrepreneurship, believe it or not, is I call it analysis paralysis, and I think a lot of other people do, but it's good to research what's going on and what's in there. But as an entrepreneur who's taking a swing, you have to make decisions without 100% of information.
Yep.
It'd be great to research it for another 3 weeks, but you missed your opportunity. Your window's closed. It doesn't matter. And that makes it different here. So you have to
and I think as you launch your solution and you start solving the problem, you learn more about the problem.
That is correct.
So it tends to be iterative. And I think it's actually the same for investing, because we don't have nearly 100% of the information we'd want. But as we partner with entrepreneurs and we get in the business and start learning, and they're learning, and we learn more about the business, and it's iterative. So you definitely don't want to over analyze the problem before you start solving it, because I do think you learn a lot in that process.
Well,
too.
I've seen people who are in a problem and they analyze it and they convince everyone there's a huge problem, and they can continue to convince everyone there's a huge problem.
Right.
There's the step you take to actually do it.
Yep, that's right.
And that's the difference between artistry and science.
Yep.
And if you're ready to go out and paint the wall, then paint the damn wall. Don't look at the paints on the floor and say, God, that could be pretty. That's what a lot of the people, they write a business plan, we get it together, we're all ready, it's beautiful, I'm all cheered up. And said, but the paint looks good on the palette there. That's not the Mona Lisa.
That's right.
And we're making that.
That's right.
So with that, what are some other things? Let's jump out to something in life. Is there any one super presentation that knocked you out? And what was super about it?
Yeah. Oh, man. There've been some great ones. I think one that just popped in my head, so I'll just roll with that, is a company actually that we invested in called Icon, and they build 3D printed homes. They actually do it.
That's cool.
Yeah. So one, it's already a cool and unique product. I mean, just the sort of concept of 3D printing a home. But two, I think the founder just did this incredible job of bringing a lot of his own personal background and story and sort of legitimacy, and lending that to this future vision of where he sees the world, and whether that's propping up houses quickly and cheaply, almost autonomously in third world countries, or building them out on Mars, right? How might we think about structures totally differently? And so it was a mix of I think levity, because he had a great sense of humor, mixed with storytelling and future vision that sort of just got everybody excited, got everybody on board, but with credibility. That, because I think a lot of people could talk about, oh, well, here's where the future is. Autonomous cars will be here. But laying out an order of how it's going to happen.
And why are you the person who sees it?
Yeah, and right. So
that history you talked about is very important, of what the person has done for 5, 10, 15 years. Why are they the person who sees this?
That's right. Here's where the world's headed. I'm going to get there by going from A, B, C to D, and it should be me doing it because I'm uniquely qualified, right? Or I've seen it because I've been in the industry, or whatever the reason is.
Now, that is a good structure out there. For anyone out there who's looking to present their idea, product, or dream, think of the whole package. Think of your history, why action events in your life led up to the moment where you're at, and how that gives emotional credibility, commitment credibility, that conviction of why you're doing it, because purpose is incredible. And if you know the purpose, why someone's going, that's how you get other people to go with you.
Yep.
And if you're investing in a leader, A leader needs to know why they're going, where they're going, and how to point everyone at the horizon. You just gave the best reasons why.
And just last tidbit, I think it gives a bit of sense of urgency. If you've got a reason, these culmination of factors in your life that have led up to this moment, that also means there's a window. And there will be a point where this moment passes.
That's
and I
correct.
think the challenge is always getting somebody to move. And usually you've got to create some amount of, hey, if you don't move, you're going to miss out. And so by telling your story in that fashion, you've kind of created that window of urgency just naturally without putting anything in there.
The sun's coming up tomorrow. We have to print the paper.
That's right.
It's not going to print itself. So with that, as we round up, Scott, just give me your what do you do? What do you want to tell the people? How they can reach out to you and contact in case they want to show you their dream?
Yeah. So we love hearing from and backing early stage entrepreneurs. We believe in the Southeast region of the U.S. That's partly why I'm here in Tampa, and we're based in Atlanta, and so we just think it's a super fast growing region, and there's a lot of talented entrepreneurs here. So we'd love to hear from anyone building their company in the Southeast. And we've got a really unique set of backers on the enterprise side. We've got Delta and UPS and Home Depot that we work with deeply. And so anyone tackling problems in the enterprise, and there are many, would love to hear from you. And so, yeah, thanks for having me.
That's wonderful.
On the show.
Thank you, Scott, for being here. Yeah. And for anyone out here, we're broadcasting here from Embark Collective during Startup of the Year, and the foundation of a tech future is taking root here in Tampa today. Thank you for joining in, and thank you, Scott, and have a good day.
Yeah, thanks.